A farm store in rural Nebraska, 1936. A farmer walks in to buy chicken feed, but he doesn't ask for the brand he usually gets. Instead, he approaches the counter with an unusual request. "Do you have any egg mash in floured percal?" The store owner is bewildered. This is feed for chickens. Why does the pattern matter? The farmer explains. His wife sent him. She needs matching fabric. She's making dresses for their daughters, and the only fabric they can afford comes printed on flour sacks and feed bags. This scene played out thousands of times across America during the Great Depression. Women were sewing clothes from food sacks, and the companies that made those sacks were about to transform from food distributors into accidental fashion designers. This is the story of how poverty became creativity, how necessity became innovation, and how flour companies ended up in the fashion business. Before the color, the rough beginning. Let's start at the beginning. Early 1800s, food comes in wooden barrels, heavy, expensive, hard to transport. Then in 1846, Elias Howe patents the lock-stitch sewing machine. Suddenly, fabric bags become practical, cheaper than barrels, lighter, easier to ship and store. By the late 1800s, flour, sugar, seeds, and animal feed are being shipped in fabric sacks. The earliest sacks are made from coarse fabrics like canvas, muslin, and burlap. Rough stuff, not pleasant to wear. But rural women are practical. They're not going to waste fabric, even rough fabric. They recycle the sacks into towels, rags, and curtains. Nothing goes to waste on a farm. By the 1910s, something changes. Flour and sugar bags start being made from tightly woven textiles like percale and sheeting, lighter, softer cotton. This fabric is actually pleasant, workable. Women start making undergarments, pillowcases, and occasionally dresses. But there's a problem: shame. Making clothes from feed sacks is seen as a mark of poverty. Women try to hide it. They soak off company logos in kerosene or lard. They dye the fabric to disguise its origins. They add ribbons and buttons to make clothes look store-bought. The message is clear. If you're wearing flour sacks, you don't want anyone to know. The first fashion forward, flour. Then comes 1925, a breakthrough moment. The George P. Plant Milling Company of St. Louis launches gingham girl flour, packaged in dress-quality red and white checked fabric. Not plain white cotton, not rough burlap, actual gingham, the kind you'd buy at a fabric store. And they market it, actually advertise that their flour sacks can become dresses. It's a selling point, a feature. The idea catches on. By the end of the 1920s, companies like Bemis Brothers in Tennessee, Fulton Bag Cotton Mills in Georgia, and Percy Kent in Buffalo, New York, are producing decorative sacks. But these are still mostly plain colors or simple patterns. The real revolution hasn't happened yet. That's coming, and it's going to be triggered by the worst economic disaster in American history. The Depression changes everything. October 29, 1929. Black Tuesday. The stock market crashes. The Great Depression begins. Within months, millions of Americans lose their jobs. Farms fail. Families lose their homes. At the height of the economic crisis, nearly 1 out of 4 people is out of work. Money disappears. New clothes become an impossible luxury. Store-bought fabric costs 40 to 60 cents per yard. Money most families simply don't have. But flour sacks? Those are free. Well, not free, you're buying flour. But the sack costs nothing extra. 3 yards of dress-quality fabric could be salvaged from just 2 or 3 100-pound bags of flour. The math is simple. Buy flour you need anyway. Get fabric for free. Suddenly, flour sack dresses aren't just a poverty marker. They're survival. They're normal. With the onset of the Great Depression, feed sack dresses lose much of their stigma. Everyone's doing it. There's no shame when everyone's in the same situation. Farm women across the country begin making dresses, shirts, underwear, curtains, towels, and quilts from the sacks. The Depression motto becomes, repair, reuse, make do, and don't throw anything away. And the companies selling flour and feed, they notice, they see what's happening, and they have an idea. The color revolution. Here's where it gets brilliant. The companies realize, if women are choosing flour based on the fabric, why not make better fabric? In 1936, the Percy Kent Bag Company of Kansas City, Missouri, introduces tint sacks, flour sacks in pastel colors. Not white, not plain. Actual colored fabric. Pink, blue, yellow, green. It's revolutionary. Richard K. Peake, vice president of Percy Kent Bag Company, is later described in a 1946 Time magazine as the acknowledged Hattie Carnegie of sack fashions. Hattie Carnegie was a legendary fashion designer, and here's a bag company executive being compared to her. Other companies rush to compete. By 1939, multiple manufacturers are creating patterned sacks specifically for dressmaking. Florals, geometrics, stripes, polka dots. Percy Kent even hires textile designers from New York City to create stylish prints with color-fast dyes. This isn't amateur hour. These are professional fashion designers creating prints for chicken feed bags. The industry explodes. Companies compete on fabric design as much as flour quality. By the late 1930s, advertisements for eggs and vegetables begin including copy noting feed sacks available. Feed stores become impromptu fabric shops. Women send their husbands to town with specific instructions. Buy the bags with flowers. Get 3 that match. Don't come home with stripes when I need polka dots. One feed store owner complains, years ago they used to ask for all sorts of feeds, special brands. Now they come over and ask me if I have an egg mash in a floured percale. It ain't natural. But it's working. Sales increase. Women are brand loyal based on fabric. The economic calculus has flipped. Flour companies are now in the fashion business. The sewing revolution. The industry doesn't stop at pretty fabric. They create an entire infrastructure to support sack sewing. In 1933, the Textile Bag Manufacturers Association publishes a booklet called Sewing with Cotton Bags, providing instructions on removing company logos by soaking them in lard or kerosene overnight. By the late 1930s, most companies switch to water-soluble ink or paper labels that can be easily soaked off. They're removing every obstacle to using the sacks. Pattern books appear. Magazines publish instructions. The Household Science Institute produces a monthly newsletter called Out of the Bag, and booklets showing how to create garments from sacks. The guides specify everything: how many sacks you need for a dress, what size sacks work best, how to match patterns, how to hide seams. Women develop networks to trade sacks at swap parties. If you need 3 matching floral sacks but only have 2, you trade with your neighbor who has the pattern you need. It becomes a social system, a community activity, women helping each other create wardrobes from chicken feed. World War II. From poverty to patriotism. Then comes World War II, and everything changes again. Cotton is rationed. The military needs it for uniforms, parachutes, bandages. Civilian fabric becomes scarce. Ready-made clothing is restricted. Because cotton is restricted to military and industrial use, cloth from flour bags is among the only material available for homemade clothes. Suddenly, sewing with sacks isn't just frugal, it's patriotic. The Textile Bag Manufacturers Association coins the slogan, "A yard saved is a yard gained for victory." Women who were ashamed to wear flour sacks in the 1920s are now proud to wear them in the 1940s. It's supporting the war effort. It's doing your part. Major retailers like Macy's and Sears begin carrying items made from sackcloth, bringing the trend to cities. Urban women who never lived on farms are now wearing feed sack dresses. The bags get even fancier.